All right, let's get into 1910, 1911 Hollywood. The image given life, 55, 56, 60s, with the MK Ultra, the culture, the American culture being developed, and the Illuminati giving light on the bad as the image is given life. The male and female is made after he, them, as we are living in the days of the beginning, so-called, when you are taken back to the garden of a man. All right, and that's the Amen, and that's that begotten son worship that Jesus preached against to the Pharisee in John 3, because the Christian, so-called, already existed before Jesus even walked the earth. All right, so that's who he's actually talking to in your New Testament. But Paul, being the Pharisee, saw Jesus and he axed the head off him and took it and said, this is what he was teaching. I'm going to change the gospel. I'll save you. All right, so that's exactly what's going on today, as your church is part of that Pharisee, and you're part of that second coming, where the church, so-called, seeking that salvation, isn't going to see their salvation, but they're actually going to hang their Jesus up with the robbers and thieves, because it tells you that the Lord comes as a thief in the night, and it also tells you that your Lord is killed in Sodom. And it tells you that the Lord creates the darkness and the good and evil. So if he creates the good and evil, and the evil comes to you, you're automatically going to kill the Lord. It's very simple. And the Lord God is the one who rules Eden. As you rise up, as the serpent comes up, the host patel and the hoo-hoo, and the serpent seed is up, the serpent seed, the SS, as the Lord comes to number the people. Satan numbers the people. That David is what you watch as you're part of that COVID. You've already merged in with the machine as it's giving you your crowning for the new birth. And to make sure you're going to give birth, it's come and stun ya! As the Red Queens come. And the Red Queen's tied to your mothership, so-called. Mothership's tied to your Mother Earth. My personal beliefs are the Baal worship, so-called, the bury them, and the aluminum, the light. They're spraying these things so it can bring the lowest of the chakra of the people. The beast man, marked by the 666, who can't buy and sell, the cell phone. As you're merging, as that Adam is coming with a birth of a new. So as all these things are going together, this is when they see the Lord come eye to eye with it, and the triangle, so-called, in the sky, the mothership, or the three of them with the pyramid structures and whatever. Or the pyramids, they supposedly have 8 sides, not the 4 sides now, how they're going in or whatever. But either way, this can tie to the number of the so-called triangles or motherships or whatever that we see there. But they may not be triangles, they may be a square or whatever, but this would be tied to your, gotten into these things before, but the New Jerusalem coming down, and then setting down that pancake area, the flat as a pancake, telling you also that's not a round ball that you live on. That's just talking about energy sequences and whatever. That's a whole nother thing we've gotten into the past, but maybe we'll cover some more stuff of that as the years of compoundedness of information. But either way, the culture, the Hollywood, when we look at these things, right, and the Brian Epstein, the manager of the Beatles and those things, and the ages of the Beatles when they came and got together, all this stuff is like a preset kind of thing, the way I see it, from 1910, 1911. You got to give something to fill these things with. As you create this TV, well, what are we going to do with the TV? So you got to have this stuff set up with the TV as you release the TV. So this is where you have like years in planning and whatever. So this is where all this stuff is like compounding, where we can see it in here, see it here, see it here, put it together, okay. So that's where we've been at since the so-called 2020 vision and dreams, and since this whatever started. So either way, folks, the Epstein, this island, the Hitler, Epstein's being tied to Hitler, the all this, the Rothschilds and all that stuff. This is where they can take what Hitler was doing. They actually could have helped him or whatever, but this is where they helped him, where they take his information and they put it upon the earth, or they start doing it or whatever. And this is where you have the Hollywood elite families, like A-listers, or like an 80-20 rule, because they show us like Brad Pitt comes from Missouri and has high school photos. But where are all these high school friends at talking about these people and those kinds of things? One question. They show us very few of the high school photos or the family photos, those things of the past, is another question. So it's just like real compartmentalized, and then they release these like Epstein files. They're all setting these things up for like short term or long term. We're gonna lock the Epstein files up. Oh, we're gonna release 47,000 more. And then, okay, so you got to realize you're just watching a movie, and not to get all so fucking worked up about it. That's another thing. But the breeding facility, the Jews, the sons of God, those who rule the world, the Amen, the Amens, all this stuff has to be kind of bred in a way. And this is where you get the sons of God taking the daughters of men. And this is where you have the child trafficking, or people selling their babies or whatever else, right? Or you have people giving surrogates and whatever else going on in our world, to where you can just have babies or buy babies online or whatever else is going on, right? My mom personally knew a woman who sold her baby black market from one state to another state, and so y'all don't, basically y'all, who knows, right? So this is kind of where, in the next phase of America, where we're going to know all these things in one way, shape, or form, right? But as we know all these things, you have to bring the dark lights out to a positive light, and take those positive lights that are no longer good and put them into the closet. And this is where we get the time spans of like 5 years, 10 years, and whatever else, and where we can see the Great Depression lining up in the replay of America in the next 100 years, and this banking system, that the dollar system, the gold system, payment structures, all we've seen all these things change in our history over and over again. And we're at these time cycles now, at the 80-year cycle now with the atomic bomb. Trump's turning 80 this year. Biden's turns 84 this year. That's a flip on the 48 2-day cycle. So all these things. So as this breeding facility, I call it, for the sons of God, for Hollywood, to set up a structure, to set up the Israel, to set up the Israel that we watch, to set up the Israel that we live. And this is a combination and blend and whatever, but it's kind of gotten out of hand. So as it's gotten out of hand, the Magi and the magician and whatever else is coming, that poker table guy coming with the card trick and the poker trick, and to gather up all the money and all that kind of stuff. And that's what's going on now. And this is where the Epstein comes in, supposedly creating. He was also born on 1/20, the presidential day. So this is where he's actually creating this culture here. He's this God, so-called, and then that's where he has to cast his dark light to spread out another source of truth that he's hiding. And this is where people just are, if you read comment, I don't have one thing to hear from that man or whatever. So it's already set to where they aren't going to be able to hear the truth and whatever on one spectrum, as far as his ideas with the quantum and whatever else that's going on. So this is where Hitler gave birth to the so-called Jew. We're going back into the beginning, okay? So this is where that Jew is being created upon the earth, that nation. But this is where Israel is only accepting DNA from or DNA to get citizenship or whatever. So that's where these things are all coming into a certain realm, and then we have the pure blood, so-called, as far as not being part of the old world, and we have the full pure bloods being totally taken into it. So that's where we have all these setting ups. It looks like there is a protest today, so maybe we'll have to come out here later and see if we can get the crazies out again. But either way, so this breeding island, this thing here, what Don's doing, this culture of America, no culture of America, they got to be recultured. They got to come out of the rejection. They got to come out of the old. That's where they go into their so-called Nazism, or where they're only given their ration of bread or given carrots and whatever else. And this would be their hell on earth and their tribulation and those types of things. And then, okay, so hopefully this should be pretty kind of easy to see, as the second coming of Adonai, the Lord, is before you on his second year in the 3rd month. And he started bombing the Iran to bring in the Phoenix, so-called, and the Mahdi on 2/28, the 2nd month of his year. And then also we're in that March Madness, which from 1/20 to the 3/20 is his so-called 2 months. And then also we have the 600 days since the Butler air shot, the 66, and the 6 has already been mentioned on kind of a long count, with the 6 months in September for the sepulcher, and then the 6 years on that for a longer thing for your 7 and such. And then the three weeks after, 3 months after in 6 days, or 3 weeks after in 6 days, those types of time frames. And this weekend would be those 3 weeks, and then you have the 6 days after, and then the 3/23 will be, I think, 6 months after the 9/23 for your woman clothed in the sun, or 7 month, or whatever. But either way, so the 8 week, 8 day, or not 8 week, 8 year, 8 month, 8 day for the woman clothed in the sun from 9/23. Should be a good one. But your June fan, your snap on the neck, your junk food, June K food, all that stuff be hitting kind of thing, and your May days and all that kind of stuff is setting up. And either way, folks, the Damascus and the mask, and the mask you wore, the mask you wear at Halloween, the Santa, the Satan, the red party, the red and white, all those things are going together. And then Texas is, everything's bigger in Texas, and it's got the red, white, and blue divide on its little logo there, so-called. But either way, that's the little horn. I've gotten into that before. And you got the Boca Chica, SpaceX, Tesla, bloodletting, T, all down there. And that cartels for that incarnation of Christ in different ways, and incarnation of Christ tied to your AI and all those things. So either way, folks, we've broken all these things down before you. The Epstein, Brian Epstein, to the Jeffrey Epstein, the Toys R Us, Jeffrey the giraffe, that long neck, all that kind of stuff is all going together. And last tidbit, it seems to be that maybe Epstein is a lineage of the so-called man, or you have Charlie Kirk being lineage of that. So there's some kind of connection going on there in some way, shape, or form, but we'll figure it out sooner or later.